Today we're going to start the study of complex numbers. If you remember back in the fall, we studied the real number system. That would be this big oval here on the right of my chart. And the real number system consisted of rational numbers and irrational numbers. As a reminder, the irrational numbers were numbers whose decimals went on forever. They didn't establish a repeating pattern, they just kept going. Now we're going to add another level to our chart. And we're going to start with imaginary numbers. So let's take this imaginary number of the square root of -1. And let's just think about what that means. So the square root of -1, to solve that, we would need a number that when you multiply it times itself would equal -1. But if you think about that, that doesn't exist. Because if you took a negative number times a negative number, it would end up with a positive result. And if you did a positive number times a positive number, you also get a positive result. So it does not exist. There is nothing out there that's going to work. So we came up with, in mathematics, an imaginary number. And what we basically said is the square root of -1 is going to be our imaginary number. So the square root of -1, we're going to replace that with the letter I, standing for imaginary number. Well, this was kind of interesting. And so now we had a way that we could deal with negative signs under the square root. And then people started realizing, well, sometimes we need to combine our real numbers and our imaginary numbers. And that's how complex numbers were born. It's just a combination of the real number, coming from the real number system over here, and an imaginary number, coming from the imaginary number system. Together, they create complex numbers.